Hello everyone, it's good to see you here again. So in this video session I will explain how this organization wide default setting is configured in Salesforce. So for this we need to first understand what we'll do with this organization wide default settings. OWD mainly control the accessibility of the records from the user based on the role hierarchy settings and the organization wide default settings, the internal access provided for each and every object. So you need to consider the grant access using the hierarchy as well. So here we can see that there is three kind of accessibility. One is private, public read only, public read write. But for lead, it, there is one other read write transfer. So if you provide the access, then user will be able to read write and transfer the lead to another user. So first I have created one custom object here, and I have created number of roles based on I have created one hierarchy of the roles. These are sales rep, above one is manager, and above one is director, associate director, and then sales director and the executive. For each and every role I have assigned the users. As you can see, for this one I have created one user with the same name. Also for another, for example this one, I have created another one user with the same name. So for each and every user I'll be working on having assigned the same role. So based on this hierarchy I'll explain how the OWD works and how the accessibility can be controlled of the record. Okay, so going with this, I have created number of scenarios here. First scenario is sales manager will create the record, and the down hierarchy users, the sales rep epoch 1, epoch 2 will be able to see or not, or above the hierarchy associate director will be able to see the record or not. So going with this, the manager going to create the record here by clicking on the new button. So selecting one record type and providing some name like first record, and selecting some LOVs here, multi-channel consent details, one custom field here, and we save it. So the record has been created. Now if you take a look on the sales rep 2, which is on the hierarchy below of the record creator, so this one, I am wondering if this user is able to see the record or not. So as we can see that OWD has been set to private for the custom object here. So this user below the hierarchy of the record creator will not able to see the record. Now going with above hierarchy sales associate director, I am assuming that this user will be able to see the record, and based on the profile permission this user will be able to update the record. So number field should be like, I'm providing one number field here. So above the hierarchy will be able to update the record based on the profile permission it has been given. So profile permission having edit capability, edit permission, so this user will be able to edit the record. Now going to down the hierarchy of another role, that is sales rep epoch, which is this below the hierarchy. I'm assuming it will not be able to see the record, so as per expected result. So this is the scenario where above the hierarchy will be able to see and edit the record based on the profile permission, but as the OWD is set to private, the below hierarchy will not be able to see the record. Now if sales rep epoch 1 will be if sales rep epoch 1 create the record, I'm considering the manager, sales manager will be able to see the record, and above the hierarchy will also see the record and update the record. But sales rep epoch 2 will not be able to see the record. Let's see what happens. So I am going to create the record for sales rep epoch 1. So this is sales rep epoch 1. I am creating the record as record 2, setting some value C with some custom field value and save it. So the record has been created. Now I'll check if above the hierarchy can see the record or not. The director, yes, the director can see the record, and also, sorry, not this one, and also add some value here. And sales rep epoch 2 still will not be able to see any record here, as you can see, and the manager will be able to see the record and will be able to edit the record based on the profile permission. For example, it's updating the value. So this scenario explains that if sales manager create the record, the below hierarchy will not able to see the record and edit the record, but above the hierarchy will able to see the record and edit the record based on the profile permission.
Now going with second scenario, I will create one sharing rule and will provide one criteria, and and the sharing rule permission would be read write, and when the record will be created by sales rep 2, it will be shared with sales manager you can, and after that I will explain what is the behavior it will exhibit. So going with sharing rule creation, go to sharing settings, click on new, type any rule name, and it should be based on criteria. For example, I am providing rule criteria as OWD value is equal to B, then it will be shared with roles of manager you can with read write accessibility. So it will wait for some times to processing the recalculation of the sharing settings. Once it is finished, you will receive one email that sharing recalculation has been completed, or you can keep refreshing the page until or unless this notification is gone. So I prefer to refresh the page, and it seems it is gone. So the sharing settings has been created with some criteria providing read write accessibility, and it is shared with sales manager. So anyone creating the record with some criteria LOV pick list value as B will be shared with you can manager. So I am creating with B with some value as in the multi-channel field, and I will check it is shared with manager or not. So this is manager, you can manager, and it seems we can access the record here. So I have provided read write access as sharing access as read write. So this user will be able to edit the record based on the profile permission and the sharing settings. Now going to second level of the below hierarchy of the manager, sales rep you can too will check if this user can see and edit the record or not. Here this is the you can 1, and we can see that it cannot see the record also. So now going with above the hierarchy, that is associate director, here you will check if this associate director have the accessibility of the record in which way or not. So we can see that it has been accessibility of the record. So above the hierarchy, user will be able to access the record and also will be update the record based on the profile permission. Here if we open this, we can see that it has been accessibility of the record, and I am updating it with some value so that above the hierarchy can also update the record based on the profile permission. Now if the record owner change the LOV value to C, which does not meet the criteria, will be, so if we change the criteria to C, we will not be able to see the record. So you can see that associate director is not able to see the record. You can sales rep also cannot, and also let's check if manager can see the record or not. So we have changed the value. Now I am refreshing the page. Here insufficient privilege, so manager, sales manager cannot see the record. So we have completed this scenario based, criteria based sharing rule creation and the record accessibility control using the sharing rule criteria. Now going with third scenario, where we have created the same sharing rule but the read only access in the sharing rule permission. So in this sharing rule, I am going to change the sharing rule permission from read write to read only, where the OWD is private. So you'll get the notification as always. Let's wait for the recalculation is finished. So the recalculation has been finished. Let's check. So on the same record which has been created with some criteria, and after that the criteria was changed, so I am changing it back, and let's check those user who has having the accessibility will be able to edit the record or not. So sales rep UK1 will not be able to access the record, and which is the down hierarchy. Now associate director will be able to view the record, and sales manager with whom the record has been shared will be able to view the record. And let's check if that user is able to edit or not. So it's providing some error that the accessibility has been restricted, so we need to contact the administrator, so that based on the sharing rule, where the sharing permission has been provided as read only, so the user which whom the record has been shared with is not able to edit. Now same as above the hierarchy of the manager, who is the associate director, who is able to view the record, will not be able to edit the record. So let's check if that this user is able to edit the record or not as well. So we can see it is not able to edit the record as well. Okay, so now going with, now we can see that this user has created the record, shared with manager, another user, and this user where the sharing rule permission is read only, so this user is not able to edit the record. Now this user having visibility to the record, so the manager will also able to view the record based on the profile permission, it will be able to edit or not. But if the sharing rule permission is read only, so this user will not be able to edit the record as well, and these users are below the hierarchy, so will not be able to access the record as well. Now going with another scenario, where we have created one sales manager user which is totally different hierarchy, on the different hierarchy. Now if this manager create the record and shared with sales rep on the UCAN side, so which having profile permission as CRUD, could create, edit, create, read, update, delete, and this user can see the record, but we will understand if the manager can see the record or edit or not, and also sales director as well. Where we have bring another scenario where OWD is changed to public read only. So sales manager who has created this created any record will be able to view by all the users, but will be not able to read, will have the accessibility as read only. Any user will not be able to edit the record on the different hierarchy. Now we will check if the manager of the record owner will be able to edit or modify the record or not, and also we'll check any other user on the different hierarchy will be able to edit or delete the record or not, modify the record or not. So I am going to delete the sharing rule and going to change the OWD settings for this object to public read only. So any record created by Sales Manager APAC will be able to visible to any of the users, and will understand the modifying capability of those records. So this is Sales Manager user. Now I am going to create some record with any name or anything, public read only test record, and providing criteria, any kind of criteria I want. So the record has been created. Now we'll check if any user can see that record with what capability. So Sales Manager APAC has created the record, this record, and associate director can see the record, sales rep APAC can see the record, and sales rep you can, which on the different region, can also see the record. So sales rep you can also can see the record. So this user has created record and all the users can have read access to the record. Now the question is how, as the OWD has set to public read only and profile permission has been given with the edit capability as well for any users, so that user will be able to edit the record or not. So expected result is the user will not be able to edit the record. Let's check with this user, sales review can one. Here this is the user. Let's check if I can change the record any field value to a specific. No, I cannot. It's restricting me to edit the record. Now going with another user, this one who has created the record, not this one, the associate director of the APAC, who is the manager of who has created this record. So this user can edit the record. So manager on the grant role hierarchy has been checked, so the manager can edit the record although the OWD has set to public read only. So this user's manager can edit the record based on the profile permission although the OWD is set to public read only. So this is one scenario. We are going with another scenario 5, where OWD is set to private and this user create sharing rule permission and profile permission and shared with a particular user, and the profile permission is set to read only. And let's check if this sales manager in UCAN can edit the record or not, although the sharing rule which has been created with sharing permission as read write. So based on this scenario, I am changing the OWD to private. Here OWD to private, and profile permission on the sales manager profile is set to read only. And now I am going to create one sharing rule. Based on the criteria and shared with the role sales manager, and access level is read write. Now I am going to create one record sales rep user, check name with the names and sharing, and which will satisfy the sharing settings. Now let's check by the manager of UCAN if that user can see the record or not. Yes, as it has been shared with the manager, but the manager cannot edit the record as the profile permission will now override. But if above the role hierarchy of any user of this user will try to edit, like associate director of not associate sales manager of APAC, that means this user, so above the role hierarchy, so this user will be able to save the record with the profile permission as it is given. Now going with another scenario, the record has been shared with this user. Now if this user will be able to edit the record, but with the where the profile permission has been given, create, read, edit permission of this user, let's check the manager of this user which having the accessibility of the record will be able to edit the record or not. This user, here for example I am adding another value, so this user is able to edit the record. So the profile permission for that is very mandatory. So any record created by this user and shared with this user where the profile permission is read will be accessed by above the role hierarchy of the user, and this user will be able to edit. Also, as this user is above the role hierarchy of sales rep APAC 2, this user will also be able to edit. So this is one scenario here. So here is one scenario where sales rep APAC 2 has created one record and shared with sales rep UCAN 1 with profile permission with sharing rule accessibility as read only, and OWD is set to private. Now above the role hierarchy with profile permission, CRUD would be able to edit, and it has been shared with this user, so this user will be able to edit, and if this user can view or edit the record or not, and this user will be able to edit or not, as this user is the above the role hierarchy of this user. So consider this as an assessment so that you can understand how this works. Just to explain, this user is the owner of the record, so it's above the role hierarchy will have the accessibility of the record, the minimum read-only accessibility, as the OWD is set to private. As this user has the accessibility of the record, so above the role hierarchy will also have the accessibility of the record. Now this has been shared with this user, so this is has the read-only permission on the record, so above the hierarchy manager will be able to see the record and will be able to edit the record. And as the above role hierarchy, so this user will be able to edit the record and view the record if the profile permission is having CRUD, but the sharing rule is read only, So this is the main factor which will restrict the accessibility to write, to update the record, to modify the record by any other user other than the managers. So the record created by this sales rep user will be able to edit and modify by its manager, and above the manager, and above the manager, and above the manager. But it will have the read-only permission to this manager and this user and this user. This will not be accessible by this user. So this user will not be able to view the record as it's not in the role hierarchy upper level. So try in your developer org and see the result. Here is another scenario where profile permission has been set to read write. Sharing permission has been set to read write, but the profile permission is read. So this user will not be able to edit the record, but above the role hierarchy the manager will be able to edit the record, and same as this user will be able to edit the record, view the record, whether this user is the owner. This user will be able to edit the record as the profile permission is CRUD and sharing permission is read write. Same as this user, it's above the role hierarchy, profile permission is CRUD and sharing rule permission is read write. So this user will be able to edit the record and view the record. Now although this user having CRUD permission, but it's on the same hierarchy, this user will be not able to see the record at all. Now there is another interesting topic, OWD versus FLS, where you can consider the OWD accessibility will be affected on the FLS change or not. So considering this scenario where sales rep APAC2 will create one record and will share with sales rep UCAN1 based on a particular criteria. So let's create one record. Before that we are going to create one sharing rule so that the record will be shared with the user. Here, okay, already created. So this sharing rule, OWD field LOV equals to B. So I am going to create one record with this field value is equal to B, so that it will be shared with sales manager. No, I am not sharing with sales manager. I will be sharing with sales rep UCAN2. So going to create one sharing rule here, rule FLS control. So it will based on a particular criteria, OWD field equals to B, and will be shared with role sales rep UCAN1, and accessibility is read write. Read write, read only, whatever you want you can give it, doesn't matter. Just we need to check whether the FLS will be working fine or not. Okay, I am going to create one record by sales rep APAC2 with the same criteria as mentioned in the sharing rule, and providing some value here. Now what I'll do, I'll check with the sales rep UCAN1 if it is shared perfectly or not, and how it is shared. let's check. So we can see that the record is shared with this user, where we can see usability field is B. Now what I am going to do, I am going to change the profile permission field level security for that user's profile. So I removed the field value from here, and I'll check if that record is or not. So this is the record and this is the user. So you can see that although that field is not present here, but user is still able to see the record. Now what if I change the value from B to A and try to reload the page? We can see, sorry, that was different record. We cannot see the record currently as that value has been changed from source record. So I am going to check again by providing the visibility on the record to this user. So I have changed the value. Now I'll check if that field is still visible or not. So although we removed the FLS from that user profile, but the OWD is checked behind, and if we change it to A here and save and try to access the record, it will say insufficient privilege. So although there is no permission on the field, but still user can access that field in backend and access the record based on that field. So this is one kind of behavior of OWD settings versus FLS. So that's it with the OWD. And also there is parent control and parent record accessibility, and a number of variations. You can try it by yourself so that you can understand the OWD functionality very clearly. So keep visiting our channel and keep subscribing and help us to grow our community in association. So this is the initiative of Digital India. So please like this video if you really like it, like our session. And thank you very much. Bye bye.